What's up, everybody? I'm Mr. Second Passport checking in one day after the big election here in Ecuador. I gotta say, I took a gut punch, but this is actually the second gut punch I've took this week. The first gut punch I had this week was when uh, my personal friend and a subscriber of the channel passed away. Leaping Lanny Pofo. He did appear in a video or two of this channel. He was a WWF guy back in the late 80s, early 90s. He was a brother of the Macho Man Randy Savage, and he had expatted to Ecuador a couple years ago and loving life down here in Ecuador. And he recently passed this week on a quick trip he was having back to the States. I think I was one of the first people to meet Lanny down here in Ecuador because he stayed at my old hotel. And about 6, 7, 8 years ago, when he was just on an exploratory trip, and he was checking out a gated community in Checa, which is kind of just north of the Quito airport. And he saw it, and I knew what he was going to say. It was just way too quiet and desolate and rural area for him, you know. He said he wanted to retire to Ecuador, but he didn't want to go to Heaven's Waiting Room. And that's what he considered that place to be, probably, if he would have chose it. For anyone else considering the area, once you get out towards the airport of Quito, or even a little bit further out from the city, it gets really rural really quick, right? So, he realized that as well. And so he chose Manta first. He actually bought property there too. And I knew what happened, but after a little while, he decided, nah, Quito area is better for me. It's just like I told him at the beginning. It's just a little more livable long term, in my opinion. A lot of areas in the highlands, and specifically in this case, Quito and its valleys. If you don't like Quito City, too cold, too busy, you could try the valleys, which are a little bit warmer and not as busy and not as much traffic here in Quito, like where I currently live. So he did eventually move up here to Quito, and he was living actually in Quito City proper for a year or two until his passing. So again, sorry to hear that. Big gut punch this week. And the second gut punch happened yesterday of this week with the election results here in Ecuador. I'm used to gut punches. I'm a Cleveland Browns fan. I get gut punched every Sunday, it seems like, in the football seasons. So I know what it feels like. But I took another gut punch again with this election. As you may have known if you watched the video the other day, there was 9 referendum questions on the ballot that I was all really excited about, hoping that they would all get voted yes, 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 yes to. The first and probably most significant was getting rid of the law that outlaws extradition of any Ecuadorian, um, even though they may be wanted for foreign drug crimes or something like that. Assume by allowing extradition that people start fearing a little more doing bad things in Ecuador because they could get extradited to countries that are not going to go easy on them and where they can't buy their way out. And, our prisons would probably get cleaned out in a big way as well. And maybe a lot of the escalation in violence that we're seeing might also be started to get addressed through that, but it didn't work out. So that and all the other questions, like minimizing the size of the Congress, all got voted no to. Every single one. So again, I was disappointed this week in my new adopted country of Ecuador, and nobody can deny there's been a ton of, over the last year especially, violence in the prisons and an escalation in drug-related violence in general in this country, specifically on the coast especially. But again, there were a lot of things on this referendum that would have started to address that, but they all got voted no. And if you had to ask me now where I think the country of Ecuador is going, I would say not a good place. Not a good place. I still think you could probably live here for years without incident. Things could go worse. Things could get worse a lot quickly, very quickly in this country. And, it could turn into another Colombia in the late 80s, 90s pretty quickly. And hopefully it doesn't, you know. But something to keep in mind also, there was no big, like, federal level people getting elected, but there was a lot of local elections and mayors. And in pretty much all the major cities of Ecuador, the guy from Rafael Correa's party won, or someone that's very left leaning. So obviously the country is leaning very left in this particular election. Maybe it's telling us something for the presidential election that's coming up in a few years, which way the country will go. It's one of the last countries in Latin America that doesn't currently have a leftist, regime in power. I'm Mr. Second Password. If you like this, subscribe and hit the like button below. Take care.